All right, we'll call this meeting of the Freeman School Board to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Emily.
Yes.
David.
Here.
Katie.
Yep.
Chris is absent. Go out to him and his family, what they're going through right now. And Cody. Here.
Next time on the agenda will require a motion to approve the agenda. I believe that there has been a few amendments, correct?
Yes, everything highlighted in yellow. So we have D in the consent agenda and 11 at the end of the new business.
Wonderful.
Motion to approve.
Will require a motion to approve. A motion by Katie, second.
Second.
Second by David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Conflict of interest disclosures, I received none. Public input.
And one inquiry about public input, but they are not here yet, so we can handle that. They reached out to me and we can.
Sure. We can move that to later in the agenda if we want to. Sure. Nope, that sounds good. Consent agenda will require a motion to approve the following: the conditions of employment of Carrie Cox for the position of pre-K through 12 counselor for the 2026-2027 school year, the resignation of Brenda Golder from the position of paraprofessional at the completion of the 2025-2026 school year, and we thank her for her service. The resignation of Ivana Luder from the position of vocal music teacher and theater director at the completion of the 2025-2026 school year, and we thank her for her service. And the resignation of Michael Freeman from the position of junior high teacher and strength and conditioning coach, and we thank him for his service. Do we have a motion? Motion by David. Second?
Second.
Second by Katie. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Unfinished business, the school board will hear a proposal of staffing for the junior senior high school.
All right, so I just have a few proposals to bring to you for the next school year. If we could change the advertising that we currently have for the art position, which is at 0.5 to 0.75, and I would like that to be a full-time position. That would provide art to all of our students, K-12. It also would provide our junior high, 7th and 8th grade students another choice for their junior high wheel, because we know that that wasn't offered last year because it wasn't available online. And then offerings that we would be able to provide would also include industrial arts, intro to ag, and then music appreciation as well, based on the criteria of the endorsements of the staff. I would like to propose that we advertise for a music teacher position at 0.5. With this position, it would cover 7th and 8th grade music, mixed chorus, music appreciation, and boys and girls glee. And then the last proposal is to advertise for a full-time junior high teacher position. The classes that would be taught is 7th and 8th grade science and 7th grade social studies, with other duties as well. Last one is would require an administrative rule waiver application to offer high school offerings to our 8th grade students to get health, and I should have said PE in there as well, following the 9th grade health and PE standards. If you do approve of that, I will have that waiver application ready for the next board meeting to put that into motion.
Out of those recommendations, we probably have 3 motions, 2 that we should probably take place tonight, and then when we have that administrative waiver, we can just have a discussion tonight and then have that waiver, like the one that's in your packet that needs to be signed for the next meeting. But the 2 motions that I see would be an amendment to the art, if the board wishes to extend that to a full-time position, and then would be a reduction of 0.5 for the music.
Sure.
So it's a reallocation of some of
Right,
those
it'd just be
duties
some
that-
shifting. Jenny, you feel about that? Okay.
So what are we losing out of that teacher position then? Because wasn't she theater, are we losing the theater part of things, or like, what are we losing?
Actually, we will be losing the theater and the drama part. We do have a possibility of an applicant that would be able to cover some of that.
So like one act play and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, we discussed that. I've actually just discussed it with this person who came in, wanted to talk about the position. She does have the endorsement to do that.
And is that the plays too that we offer every
Yes,
year?
the musical. Yeah, that,
So we don't lose that by reducing this?
no.
And then are Sheila and Sonia taking on additional duties then? Or what classes are?
So with Sheila, she will still do the 7-12 band, and then each of the other class periods is where she gives lessons to students 5th through 12th. And then Sonia will do the elementary music, and then she also will help out with the boys' glee and the girls' glee, so that we have 2 people.
I would assume that it's probably going to be easier for us to get applicants also for a full-time versus part-time art teacher as well.
I did have one person contact me, and that was really, they said, is it possible to be full-time?
Oh, sure.
You know, and I said, you know, there is always that possibility.
Right.
She had a lot of questions, answered all her questions, and called her back, and she just wasn't interested.
Oh, okay.
No, or I shouldn't say interested, she just didn't answer,
Okay, got it.
Will it
so.
be difficult to get a part-time music teacher then though? Because that's a lot of.
I actually have someone that reached out that would like to teach the music, but they would like it at a part-time, and you don't want to be full-time.
I like offering the art full-time.
I agree. I'm comfortable moving forward with these proposals. Any other discussion or questions?
I'm just a little nervous with reducing the music. I know we have a few other music teachers, but we're one band, one music, but there's a lot of music things that go on. I just don't want that to suffer.
It sounds like most of the music is, it sounds like it's mostly gonna be theater and like one act play and stuff like, it's just like, you know, a strength and conditioning coach or et cetera. It's all, you know, those additional things that other folks could take on too. As a music and theater kid myself, I understand what you're saying, Katie.
Yeah.
But if we're not missing much, I guess I'd feel comfortable. I mean, and again, this is always something, you know, if next year we decide, you know what, we really were missing a lot, we need to ramp up and transition this over to a full-time, you know, we can always do that as well.
I mean, that's similarly for last year too.
Correct, yep, so, you know, always something that we can amend to in the future. Just see how it goes. Especially if there's somebody interested in a part-time capacity, it'd be interesting to see how that goes and if that is able to fill all the needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments? Then we will require a motion to approve the recommended proposal for staffing at the senior high school, which includes, the first would be to change the advertising for the art position from 0.5 to, or 0.5 to 0.75 to a full-time position. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Motion by Cody, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. And then the second motion would be to advertise for reduce the music teacher position to 0.5 and advertise for that open position. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by David, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. And do I need to do a motion at all for the full-time? It's
that
just a
covers it.
replacement, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, sounds great. Next time on the agenda, the school board will hold a discussion about bids that were received for Phase 2 of the stadium project.
All right, so since we last met in February and approved the first two bid packages for demolition in the press box and bleacher systems, we since completed design and issued the remaining bid packages, 13 of them out, and opened them last Thursday. The first handout I gave you there, the smaller one, includes the bid tabulation for all 15 bid packages. The first two we've already discussed and have been previously let. The next 13 are the ones that we're discussing tonight. I can breeze through this quick and discuss who is low bidder. So bid package number 3, concrete, we had 3 bidders. Rex Winkle Concrete was the low and qualified apparent bidder. Bid package number 4, general construction. This lone bidder was Pitts Design Build, low and qualified. Bid package number 5, sectional doors and coiling doors. The 2 sectional doors at your storage building and then the coiling doors at the concession stands. Low qualified bidder is Upper Midwest Door. Bid package number 6 was the drywall and the FRP, which is your plastic paneling throughout the bathrooms and the concession stands on the wall. Low apparent qualified bidder was Walls by Waldner. Bid package number 7, we received 1 bid, Nagel Painting, low and qualified. Bid package number 8, plumbing, we received 7 bidders. And overall plumbing was low and qualified. Bid package number 9, HVAC, again had 7 bidders, and Hander was the low and qualified bidder. Bid package number 10, electrical, we received 7 bidders as well, and Kemp Electric was the low qualified bidder. Bid package number 11, earthwork and utilities, we received a lot of good action on. The low and qualified bidder is Brock Contracting. Bid package number 12, asphalt paving. We were happy to receive 5 bids for that one as well. Low and qualified is ASCO. Bid package number 13, track surfacing. We received 2 bids on. Midwest Tennyson Track was the low and qualified bidder for that package. Bid package number 14, fencing. American Fence was low and qualified bidder. And bid package number 15, landscaping and irrigation. James Valley Landscaping was low and qualified. Depending on what alternates are selected, there would be no change to any of those low and qualified bids that we just ran through. I will jump to the next spreadsheet there, next handout. This is a 1-page snapshot look at all the bid packages, alternates, unit prices that were provided, and total values. So the top 15 bid packages there we just discussed. First column is their base bid. The second column would be alternate number 1, which is a add alternate to go to an encapsulated track surfacing. It's a little more of a durable surface. Currently within base bid we have embedded. Long story short, the rubber granules of the track are mixed with the binder and laid down. If you do this encapsulated track surfacing, it has an extra envelope, if you will, over the top of the surfacing. It's just more of a durable product.
Does that change performance, do you know at all?
It doesn't. Some people say that it is more of a firmer product. Some people say it's faster, but I don't want that on record.
Oh, gosh.
So,
What's the impact then of using that as far as like the anticipated life of the track then?
I am told that it provides a little bit of a longer lifespan to it, but not much.
Got it.
I couldn't get a value to that.
No. Nope, good.
In speaking with Helms, who was the civil engineer for the project, he thought the $22,000 bid for that alternate one was of good value.
Oh,
So he and I would recommend that that be taken.
okay.
Alternate number 2 is the sports field lighting. So that is a breakout price to replace the 4 light poles, bases, heads, and run new power to all locations. So, new system for the lighting.
Is that recommended?
Yes, I know that's what we had discussed. You know, it was kind of, now's the best time to do it, you know what I mean? We just finished up another track project and they were wishing that they would have done it at the time, so. I know one of the poles on the northeast corner is a little concerning, you know, to the school, so. And then alternate number 3 is a performance bond deduct. So within base bid, we require all of the bidders to include performance and payment bonding within their quote. We do that just in the case that we have any contractors that may be a surprise, maybe they don't have the resources that may be required to do a job of this magnitude and in a hurry. And then if we also know that a contractor may be struggling financially or, you know, on other work, we may require them to post a bond for the project. We will still bond the project, the entire project through PITS. This would just be an extra layer of insurance. And this low bid contractors that we have here, we have no concern with, so we would also recommend taking that full alternate number 3, which would be a reduction. And then the unit prices that you see there will be used in the project in the case that you know, we were to go and add sidewalk, eliminate sidewalk, need some additional base course if we find some soft soils and have to go a little deeper on the concession stands or something like that, so. More of a reference item. And then if you just run down there, costs are tallied up there. Total construction costs, general conditions are below that. That's all of the costs that are required to manage the project, project supervision, travel, bonding, insurance, you know, job trailers, you know, all that stuff that's required for us to manage the project. Your excise tax computed on both of those, and then our construction management fee, 3.18%. And then we are recommending a contingency of $150,000 at this time. That'd be withheld for, like I said, if we run into soil conditions, if we get down below the track and there's a few soft spots that we have to pull out, replace with material, that money's there to replenish that. And then if those funds are not used by the end of the project, they are returned back to the school. And then over the course of the project, you know, if we're 50% of the way through and we are comfortable with, you know, the school wants to add signage to the project or, you know, pull that money out and go, you know, start procuring signage, whatever it may be for the project, we can have those discussions along the way to reduce that contingency. And then at the bottom left corner there, contract value based on selection. That is merely just a total depending on what alternates and sequence of alternates you select.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, it's nice to see it all laid out. It's right about where we thought we'd be anyway. I think a little under our high end, right?
Yep.
So that's good.
And we've discussed along this journey, it feels like it's been a journey, then what some of those alt bids that we would possibly utilize our current capital outlay and pay for it out of our current and then use the
And fund for the
certificates
rest.
for the rest. So I'm not sure what Pitts's recommendation would be if we would discuss accepting these bids and then talk about the finance side of it when Jerry presents, or if we would. Next piece to this will be kind of fun to decide what are we going to fund with capital and what are we going to fund with certificates.
Right.
There is a Freeman company, at least one that I see in here. that's not like overly on another price of another company, although I don't know what that company is called.
Is it the landscaping that you're talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, I
But
noticed that as well.
I'm just wondering, since this is a Freeman school with Freeman resident kids here, it's not like it's completely out of the
Right.
price range, that maybe that's something we should look at.
I can speak to that, that's against state law.
It is, you have to go with
The
lowest.
project, as long as the lowest bidder is qualified and vetted, you cannot award to another bidder.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Okay.
I was wondering about
Okay.
that, because I was like, you guys are taking a low.
Never mind.
Yeah, we would certainly like to do that, but
Yeah.
if they're qualified, they posted bid security like all the low bidders.
That makes sense.
Never mind.
Fair.
I take it back.
Keep it for, strike it from the record.
Sorry.
One of the things I'm thinking about it, the estimate of probably the cost, we were within a couple $100, I think. The one item that was higher was the lighting alternate, because we had our original discussion with that first estimate that we showed you guys. At that time, we were just looking at replacing the heads of the lights on the
Right.
poles.
And not the poles.
This isn't the whole infrastructure,
Yeah.
so that number is higher because the scope is different.
I think we've had the light show out. Times.
Yeah, I
It'd be
agree.
nice to avoid that in the
Yes,
future.
I agree. I think
And
the
there's
lighting
some that are
needs to happen.
permanently out right now that would be, have
That
some
are gonna
work.
have to be addressed anyway. And if we already have a pole that's potentially needing to be replaced, makes sense to do it all at once. I agree.
It's not as dramatic.
Right. We have the sprinklers going around.
Yeah, exactly. That way, we'll do that instead.
Adds a little.
Sprinklers go off at odd times. Like it. Thoughts?
No, we're where we wanted to be. I just assumed we were doing lighting the whole time, so.
Perfect. No surprises from
No
me.
matter how you guys decide to fund it, we can adjust the schedule values of the contract, so
Oh,
it's easy
okay.
for us to the one people number within the contract, so it doesn't require a bunch of smoke and mirrors or any extra work on our end. It's simply a matter of how we lay up the schedule values in the beginning, so you can do whatever you want, pay for it however you want, and it won't affect any of the subcontractors.
Does everybody feel comfortable then just going forward with the next agenda item and voting on this item? Great. Then we'll require a motion to approve the selected bid for Phase 2 of the stadium project with all of the alternates, correct? All aligned with that?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Do I have a motion?
I moved.
Motion by Katie, second?
Second?
Second by David. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda, the school board will hold a discussion about bids that were received for drilling a well on the school property.
Those are also in your packet. I didn't see, or well, the company contacted and was going to be present, but I don't see them. So I'll get that opportunity. But the low apparent bid, that was Dave Putsky at $45,235. See the other bids from a combination, and for the other bids, you want to look at the backside, which would have the Gronda.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I see that.
And the total number would be at the bottom.
Okay.
Progressively in order by the amount based off of what would be included in that quote. So the first one would be $250 for a 6-inch steel. An 8-inch would be the second one, and then PVC, and then 8-inch steel for the third one. And the first one from is for up to a 280-foot well, and that one is 6-inch PVC.
I've used
I
Prinsky.
did have this passed on and vetted by a professional, and with the feedback that I got was Husky's
Been around forever.
connection with Freeman as well.
Yeah, worked on my home place, I think, when I was a child.
What are the conditions that would necessitate a steel versus PVC?
You know, I can't speak to that 100%. What I believe that I heard was that if it goes through a certain amount of granite, that you would upgrade to steel versus PVC.
Any other questions?
I was just curious.
Any other thoughts, David or Katie?
We don't have any idea if that were the case, then if I had to go to steel, what that cost would be with Husky, correct?
If that's the quote, I would feel that they are confident that that's the number that they would be at.
Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll require a motion to approve the selected bid from Dave Putsky Well Drilling and Repair to drill a well on the school property. Do I have a motion? Motion by Katie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, the school board will hold a discussion about the use of capital outlay certificates to finance the stadium project.
Jerry is here from D.A. Davidson to walk us through that.
Absolutely, Jake.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back up here in Freeman. The last time I was here was back in November of last year. So we've made a tremendous amount of progress, and it's exciting important project. I've had the pleasure of financing several of these athletic complexes for school districts in the state of South Dakota. And so I wanted to provide you with some information based on what Jake has provided to me. We're looking at, first of all, a project fund need of $3.4 million, and then a project fund need of $3,690,900, which would include the field lighting and then the bid for $40,900 for the well. So, hit the space bar. Okay, good. So as far as the current municipal market goes, folks, interest rate market started off 2026 as it finished 2025 with relative low volatility, and we were seeing rates decline. However, in late February, the onset of the Iran conflict coincided with the heightened market volatility and a broad repricing across rate markets, resulting in municipal benchmarks reflecting upward pressure with the AAA MMD. And what that MMD stands for is Municipal Market Data, which is the index we use every day to price bonds. So the MMD comes out every afternoon, and then the next day when we're pricing bonds, we use the rates that they show us, the yields actually, and then we add a spread to that, because not everybody is AAA, right? So you got to add a little bit of a spread. And so the yield is up 66 basis points in the 10-year municipal rate, and a basis point is 1/100th of 1%. So 0.66% is how you read that. 35 basis points, or 0.35, in the 20-year, and 37 basis points, 0.37, in the 30-year since the start of the war with Iran. So we see rates go up since that early February, okay? Taking a wider view, the result is that between August 11th of 2025, which is about the second time that I provided numbers to the school district, and then to yesterday, March 31st, what happened to be my 65th birthday, I'd slip that in there. The 5 and 10-year municipal rates have increased 29 basis points on the 5-year and 4 basis points respectively on the 10-year. So we haven't seen a lot of volatility since that August of last year and yesterday. So, but from the standpoint of where rates are, but we have seen a lot of it, as we've gone through. So, the next slide I'd like to show you is basically a municipal market overview of the 5 and 10-year municipal market data scale and the treasury market. So these top ones here are the, we got green and we've got green. So these are the treasuries. I'm sorry, I don't see as well as I used to. So you can see there's been volatility since last year. Rates in the Treasury market, which are the top two, have come down since then, and then we've seen them back and forth, and we saw them drop rather significantly and then go back up. So that's kind of been the trend. And then municipal rates, which usually are less than the Treasury rates because they're tax exempt and Treasury rates are taxable, have kind of gone the same direction, and we see them coming up as well. So just wanted to kind of show you that difference between last year and just over the last week here with regard to how the rates looked on a chart. Sometimes it's easier to understand it when you show a chart versus talking about basis points. So anyway, so we've seen it kind of bump up a little bit. The next slide is the first numbers run that we've provided that shows a 5-year repayment period. So we're going to show you a 5-year repayment period and a 10-year repayment period. So I don't want to get in front of Seth's camera. The projected closing date would be June 17th. We're looking at that date because we assume that the district may wait until May to adopt the resolution authorizing the issuance of the certificates. You're certainly able to do so if you're going to have another meeting in April, which would be the 13th. Is that correct? So you could do it there?
Around there.
Ish.
Ish, okay, thank you very much. So, or you could do it in May, depending on if it's too fast to adopt the resolution, if you need to make some other decisions. And so if you wait till May, we would have the closing date set up for June 17th. The projected borrowing amount, as you can see, is $3,275,000. The premium amount generated would be $204,967.80. What premium is, folks, and I may have explained this back in November, but I don't expect you guys to remember, okay? It's somewhat esoteric, but people love South Dakota bonds. They're willing to pay a higher price than par to get them, okay? So that allows additional proceeds to be generated because they're paying more than dollar for dollar. So that's the quick and easy description. So you get an additional $204,000, which means you don't have to borrow that $204,000 and make it a $4,079,000 transaction. So your project fund dollars then, because we have, I don't want to do that, because we have the 204 to 275, get you to a project fund of $3.4 million, which is what you need based on those base bids, right? So transaction costs for this particular transaction, $76,121.25. Okay, I'm going to show you the differences in the project costs as we go through. Your total interest cost would be, assuming you don't refinance it or pay it off early, would be $528,013.89. The maximum annual payment amount would be $743,125. Obviously, repaying over 5 years, you've got pretty high payments. But that saves on interest cost and gives you the opportunity to pay it off very, very quickly. So it makes sense. Your average annual levy, starting in fiscal year 26-27, would be $1.36 per thousand, based on your 25 pay 26 taxable value of $543,194,304. Okay? So I did the summary just so you had that available to you to take a look at, because I'm going to provide you with 8 numbers runs, and I don't want to overburden you too much by making you look at just the numbers runs. So as you can see, this top number was the borrowing amount, that second number was the premium, then you have your total proceeds available for the financing. Project fund is $3.4 million. The cost of issuance, S&P rating fee, registrar and paying agent fee, certificate counsel. The rating fee is for getting a rating from S&P that buyers love, because it has all the information about the school district in it with all of their analysis, okay? And that helps drive down your interest rate. I should say your yields. The registrar paying agent, that's the entity that the school district pays to make your payments on a semi-annual basis for your interest and an annual basis for your principal. And then they take the money and shoot it to the bond holder, or shoot the certificate holders. Certificate counsel, that's Mr. Todd Meyer Henry in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He does 97% of the bond opinions in the state, and he works with school districts every day. He's very, very good. And he's got a very reasonable cost for doing it. He's got a schedule. The delivery date expenses are underwriter's discount, which is 1.50% of that $3,275,000 number. And then $4,093.75, that would be for the CDFA credit enhancement that allows you to get a higher credit rating that, equates into a lower rate. And it's very, very reasonable. They have a minimum of 3,000, a max of 10. So it's $1.25 per thousand. And then bonds and certificates are sold in $5,000 increments. So you've got a little bit of a rounding amount here. And what we would do, if it ended up looking exactly like this when we priced it, if this is the way the school district wanted to go, we'd move that $38,46.55 up into the project fund, or you could use it to make your first interest payment.
Okay.
So got some flexibility there. This next slide is just showing you, cross out. I got a bad habit of doing that. It just shows you the pricing model, the way it looks today. So we would use a 5% rate, but yields that are much lower, which generates, if you see that the fourth column, the yields and the price in the fifth column. So you can see those prices are over 100, which is $1 for dollar. So that's what generates those additional proceeds and premium over on the right that I talked about. Okay?
can actually walk over here too, because I've got this shared, not the camera, so you can walk right in front of it. I totally forgot about that. So you
Oh,
can,
no worries, Seth. Yeah, I'm doing fine now. I don't want to get. I'm starting to remind myself, but thank you. And then if you look further down, it just shows you the par amount, the amount of the premium, the total production. We take away our underwriter's discount, and you end up with that $3,438,42.80 that's allocated to the rest of the costs and into the district's project fund of $3.4 million. And then your repayment schedule. So your first interest payment would be 1 of 27. And then your first principal payment would be 8/1 of 27. But you also have interest as well as principal because interest is paid semi-annually. And you can see what your payment amounts are on a fiscal year-end basis. So that would be the one that Jennifer would be most interested in. And then the last slide for this particular financing shows what your tax levy would be based on your current valuation for the amounts of each payment. That's what you would need to levy from your capital outlay levy, which is currently what, Jake or Jennifer, do you guys have a handle on that? Is it like, yeah, because when you do one of these financings, you're pledging your entire $3 per thousand, but you obviously, because certificates are basically limited based on what your enrollment is these days versus your valuation to a certain extent, then that would be a bigger piece of probably what you're levying. It wouldn't, because you're probably not levying the whole $3, right? So it'd be $1.36. What we typically see is that each year that valuation goes up, right? So each year that levy would probably go down a little bit, just using your valuation as the marker, because you're pledging the whole $3, okay? So that's a enhanced rated transaction repaid over 5 years using a $3.4 million project fund. So that's what the school district ends up getting, is the $3.4 million. So, next one is a 10-year, basically the same thing, limited tax capital outlay certificates that's rated and enhanced. So same closing date, projected borrowing amounts a little different because you're taking it out a little longer, because you're generating a bit more premium, because it's a longer maturity schedule, but you still end up with a project fund of $3.4 million. Transaction cost on that one is $75,861. They vary just a little bit because they're based off of what the par amount is, so you're going to see a little bit of variance there. The call date is 8/1 of 31, and I don't know if we had a call date in there. Did I miss that?
It's not callable.
Yeah, so it's going to be non-callable, because we would structure it as a public offering, and we would go out to the world, basically, to sell them, but we would focus mostly on banks, and if a bank buys a certificate or bond with a 5-year repayment period, they're not going to allow you the flexibility of being able to call it early, because they like the school district, they like the rate, and it's very short, so they don't want you pulling it away from them. So to have them invest in your financing, they don't want to have it callable. But if you get to a 10-year repayment schedule, then the school district has a 5-year call provision. So you can actually call it, which means pay it off, or pay it down, or refinance it, if that makes sense, at that time, from an interest rate standpoint. The total interest cost would be $982,922.22. Your maximum annual payment amount is much lower because we're doing 10 years versus 5, $416,500. Your average annual levy, 76 cents per thousand versus $1.30 or $1.36. And of course, it's the same valuation. So these start to look kind of the same because they all have the same categories. There's a little bit difference in the rounding amount on this one. But, it's basically the same formatting as before. There's the pricing on it, so you see we're going out 10 years versus 5. So, the rates are going to be a little bit higher as you get further out from the standpoint of what the yield is to generate that premium. Okay? And then here's your repayment schedule. So again, it starts, first interest payment is 2/1/27, and your first principal payment is 8/1/27, along with that semi-annual interest payment. And of course, it goes out 10 years versus 5. And when you use SEDIFA, if you want to participate in the State Aid Pledge Program, they require you to use a February and an August as payment dates, just so they have, because they're doing many, many schools, and they want everybody on the same repayment schedule. And I think it works well for the school districts as far as your cash flows in doing it that way, because you're going into the new fiscal year, so you can budget for it and all of that, so. So that's the 10-year, and of course, there's the the levy, but we've got the 2017 certificates in there. I'm not sure why we didn't put it in the other one. I apologize for that. But this is an aggregate net debt service. I see, yeah, because once you pay it off, then it's just the rest of the 10-year repayment schedule. I'm not sure why it wasn't in the 5-year, though. So I'll have to talk to my analyst, Drake, about that. So that's the 10-year rated enhanced transaction. Okay? And then we're using a $3,690,900 project fund on the next 5-year versus the 3.4. So you're going to see that basically you're borrowing a little bit more. You've got premium being generated. The project fund dollars, $3,690,900. Transaction costs are a little higher because the par amount's a little higher. Callable, yeah, we got that one in there. Okay, so call date's non-callable because it's 5 years. Total interest cost, $571,694.44. Maximum annual payment, $804,000. Average annual levy, $1.47 per thousand, and that's based off of your taxable valuation. So basically, what you're looking at is basically a little bit higher maximum annual payment amount and a little bit higher annual payment amount. So a little bit higher tax levy. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I go through these rather quickly. All right. And here's the 10-year, okay, for a rated enhanced financing, $3,690,900. So the borrowing amount's $3,540,000. And then you've got your transaction costs, your project fund dollars, premium, your call date, total interest cost, which is higher, obviously, because it's the highest one that you'd be borrowing on as far as amount, and on the 10-year duration. Maximum annual payment amount, $452,083 per thousand, okay? Now, each of these are what we call, and as I mentioned, a public offering, okay? So you guys hire us, we put together an official statement after the resolution is adopted by the school district. We then take that official statement, which has all the material information in it that an investor would want to see to make an informed investment decision about whether they'd like to buy your certificates. We hand that off to our sales and trading desk. They sell it, they get the interest rates negotiated, lock them in with a certificate purchase agreement, and then we close the transaction 2 weeks after that typically, okay? There's also what we call a private placement. And so rather than putting together this large document, we basically put together a term sheet. And then we go to your local banks with whom you do business with and ask them if they would be interested in buying it rather than offering it to different banks in both South Dakota and other states. We just go to your local bank and I basically negotiate that as the banker, and then we can get that put in place. So some advantages are you don't have to worry about getting the rating, you don't have to worry about getting SEDIFA, so you don't have any reporting requirements, surveillance requirements. And on the 5-year repayment, you've got some real nice flexibility because we can negotiate, say, a 3-year call, versus it being non-callable. So to the extent the school district would like to pay it off early, you can. So you're going to see a higher interest rate though, because, well, a higher yield, because the banks have a lack of liquidity. They don't really have a place they can go sell it. So you have to pay a little bit more in interest on your interest costs. And then also, there's no rating and there's no enhancement. So you're going to pay a little bit higher interest than you would otherwise. But you've got flexibility, and it's your local bank buying it. And your local bank might buy a piece of one of the rated enhanced ones, but typically they don't buy the whole thing. So, but maybe they would. It just would be a situation where you'd have to flesh it out and ask them once we got it to our sales and trading desk. So this is a bank placement structure, same closing date, although it could be done much more quickly because you don't have to do an OS, you don't have to do a rating, you don't have to do SEDIFA, so you don't have any of those calls, any of those, timelines. If you were to adopt a resolution in April, you'd probably have it done around the end of May. So it'd be you get your money much quicker. So projected borrowing amount, because there's no premium, you've got to borrow a little bit more to cover the transaction costs of $58,000 and get to your 3.4 number, okay, for your project fund. Call date 1/15 of 29. I'm using 1/15 payment dates rather than 8/1 payment dates because we're not required to. So let's change it up a little bit, and so you've got 1/15 and 7/15 for your principal date and your interest dates on a semi-annual basis. Total interest cost $292,430.83. Maximum annual payment amount $771,625. Average annual levy, $1.42 per thousand, okay? So this looks like, well, gosh, we've got $58,000 in expenses versus $78 and $77 with the rated and enhanced structures. So you basically pay us the placement fee, which is 1.5%, so it doesn't matter to us how you'd like to go. We get paid the same amount based on whatever that par amount is. And then you would pay Mr. Meyer Henry a little bit higher fee because you've got to borrow an additional $60,000 to get to your 3.4, pay your expenses, and have a little bit of a rounding amount, okay? So there's some advantages to that. Now, the pricing is at par, okay? Because you're not going to generate any premium because the bank's going to treat this as a bank loan. So they're going to say, yeah, we'll pay the 4.25 or less. It's a negotiation, right? This is, as of today, with about a 25 basis point hedge in it upwards, because we don't know where the market's going to be in a month or month and a half or 2 months. So if we were trying to sell it today, I think we'd get it done at 4. Okay, but we always try to build in a little bit of a hedge. And so that's why there's no premium, and that's why you're borrowing $3.46 million versus the other amounts that we had before. And so we're just paid a fee out of the proceeds, and there's no underwriting discount. We're a placement agent, so we don't underwrite the transaction. And that's what it looks like from a pricing standpoint on the 5-year bank placement. So there's your repayment schedule, using 115.27 for a principal and interest payment, and then just kind of continuing down for those 5 years. And there's a 3-year call. So after 3 years, after you make your payment in 29 for $680,000, you can pay off the remaining balance of $1,450,000. I know, Jake, you're really focused on that. So that's good. You got it. And then the tax levy report. There's what the tax levies would be based on your current valuation with the payment amounts for that. And here is a 10-year bank placement. So you'd basically be looking at the exact same borrowing amount. The transaction cost would be basically the same. The call date would be a little longer. We get a 4-year call versus a 3-year call because you got a 10-year transaction, 10-year repayment period. Total interest cost, $898,736. Maximum annual payment amount, $416,000. And your levy would be 80 cents per thousand. So same format. It's actually the same amount of number, the same amounts on the sources and uses, because we're really not changing anything. We're just paying it off over a longer period. So you're at a 480. So there's a 25 basis point hedge in that as well. So if we were selling it today, you know, it'd be a 455. But, you know, we just don't know where the rate's going to be. But it's still below 5%. It would be lower. What's the expectation for the next couple of months? Who knows? You know, depending on how things go, we could see rates come down. And we do have a lot more wiggle room negotiating with a local bank than we do with buyers, you know, the bigger buyers, the bigger banks out there. So, you know, they might, you know, if you run quite a bit of money through them, you know, on an annual basis, they might, you know, agree to a little less than they would if it was just somebody that didn't have a relationship with them. So there's the repayment schedule. Shows you $3,460,000. Got the same payment dates. And there's your levy. So, and then this is just the next one with a $3,699,900 project fund. So you've got to borrow a little bit more, $3,755,000. Transaction costs are $63,655. It's a little higher because you're borrowing more to fund that project fund. Call date, same. Maximum annual payment amount, $838,350. Total interest cost, $425,662.29. And an average annual levy of $1.54, because we're bumping that up to $3,755,000 to get you the project fund dollars that you need. There we go. Shows you the project fund. There's the rate at 4.25. There's the repayment schedule. And there's the levy. And the last one, of course, is the 10-year repayment schedule. So, I feel like a broken record a little bit, sorry about that. But projected borrowing amount $3,755,000, project fund dollars the same, transaction costs a little higher because, or actually they'd be the same. And the call date, it's 4-year call, total interest cost $975,388, and maximum annual payment amount $476,148 with an 87-cent levy. Okay. Repayment schedule at $480. There you go. A little higher on the payment amounts because we got $3,755,000. And there is your levy. So, a lot of information over as short a time period as I could make it without talking too fast, in my view. I could answer any questions you might have. You know, the issue now becomes, you know, which option of those 8 looks the best to you from the standpoint of what you want in your project fund and what your duration is, and whether you want to do a public offering or a private placement. So, and
Jenny, we're chatting over here and thought maybe it'd be best to table agenda item 6, give us a chance to.
I was just gonna say, yeah, because we're gonna
Yeah.
rely on you a lot for the, some guidance.
Yeah, I would like to.
Your opinion, at
look
least.
Everything and take time
Yes.
to.
No, that was really helpful, though. It was, yeah, very.
glad to hear that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, you know, if you want to wait to discuss it at the next board meeting with regard to which structure you want to use, that'd work fine. We just have Mr. Meyer-Henry draft a resolution for your May meeting.
Okay.
Unless you're going to have a special later in the month of April. I don't know. Probably not. Who knows? You're right. There we go. So thank you for that. We know that. So we could get it done, you know, at the May meeting and then have
That'd be okay.
it closed in 30 to 45 days. So,
That timeline sound okay?
Once we do the bank placement, then we can do it quicker.
Yeah.
Final day is that?
No, that sounds good. I think, having some time to digest and,
Narrow it down to.
Exactly,
options,
exactly.
Present that at the next board.
yep,
April.
April, yep, I was just, yep, in a couple weeks.
well, folks, thanks so much. If there's no questions, it's a pleasure to be here as always. As I mentioned, the last time I was here, I've done some business with the city. I love the golf course. There's a short par 4 that makes me feel good when I
Right,
drive it.
yes, same.
But I'm not so sure these days if I've still got the energy to do that at my advanced age. So I've been playing out here about 2006, so, but it's always been a blast. And of course, you know, we value our relationship with you guys as a client and look forward to working with you as we get this all put together. It's going to be a beautiful project. You guys are doing a great job in putting it all together with Pitts and everybody else, and so it'll be exciting. Look forward to the grand opening.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really, really helpful.
Oh, and thank you.
Happy
Appreciate
birthday.
that. That's very nice of you. I got signed up for Medicare, so I'm good to go.
I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be an April Fool's joke or what.
You know, yeah, well, I appreciate that. Maybe I don't look 65. So, oh, well, thank you, Emily. God bless you for that.
All right, everybody's good. We'll chat about agenda item number 6 at our regularly scheduled April board meeting, and we'll just put that under unfinished business. Good deal. All right, we'll require a motion to approve the administrative rule waiver application.
Mitzi can attest to this one. We've kind of got a little bit of rigmarole from the state on this one, whether we had teachers that administrative rule and Mitzi worked with that teacher to fill out whether they were certified for this class or not. We've heard 3 years ago that we were, and heard a different perspective from a different angle that we were last year. Now they're saying that they need to take the praxis. So this administrative rule is required to be able to teach for this year, and that teacher will take the praxis shortly.
All right, good. It'll be done before July 1st.
That copy just needs to be signed by the board chair and then submitted to the DOE, and that covers all of our bases for that.
Any questions from anybody about that? Okay. That'll require a motion to approve the administrative rule waiver application. Do I have a motion? Motion by Katie. Do I have a second? Second by Cody. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The school board will notify the public that no election is required for the open position, as only one petition was submitted by David Downs. Congratulations. Welcome back.
Condolences. Who's giving me condolences?
Welcome back, I know. We'll require a motion to approve the proposed preschool rates.
Okay, we're proposing $300 a month instead of, right now it's $250.
Okay.
So we kind of came up Yeah, we needed to up the price a little bit just from, so our expenses this year is gonna end in like 98,600. So with state aid at 48,000 and tuition for preschool, so we get state aid for junior kindergarten.
Right.
And then the tuition for preschool is 23,500, which leaves us at 71,500. So it's like a loss of 27,000.
Yeah,
So,
just trying to make up that deficit.
yeah, raise it a little bit. And
Okay.
yeah, I don't think we've raised it since it
In a
opened.
couple year, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sounds reasonable. Anybody else, any other comments? It's hard to get daycare at that rate. To be honest, so,
Yeah, I don't like the thought of having to pile on more expenses to households, but it's not something we can just continue to eat.
right, exactly. Okay, sounds good. Then I'll require a motion to approve the proposed preschool rate increase from $250 to $300. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by David, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cody, all in favor say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next on the agenda will require a motion to approve the 2026-2027 school year calendar.
We already approved this last month, but there was some changes to it, so I figured we put it on here to approve again, to make sure it's official. The homecoming day was added for the 25th, that is gonna be against Canastota.
Great.
And we added a half-day, so because of that homecoming date, we're gonna a new dismissal that added another half-day. It was removed, so we were looking at where we would put that. The initial thought was possibly doing it as a day and a half of flex days and then using half a day to help put classrooms back together, since we'll have so much going on as far as construction projects and moving of classrooms at the elementary with the additional staffing. I don't remember if it was negotiators, calendar committee had some other ideas, so I'm gonna meet with them, so we'll have the full 175 staff days. Just not sure if that'll be during that flex day or if we'll creatively work that other half day in somewhere else within the calendar. So.
Sounds good. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll require a motion to approve the proposed 2026-2027 school year calendar. Do I have a motion? Motion by Katie, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, apologies, the school board will hold a discussion about alternative dates for the regularly scheduled April 13th, 2026 board meeting. I know I do have a conflict, a work conflict. What does it look like for everybody for that Wednesday, the 15th? I know Chris has, 15th, Wednesday? the
Oh, I'm
15th
sorry, I'm
of
looking
April?
at next year's calendar. So yes, Wednesday, that works for me.
Tax day. I know Chris has said that he is also available that day, so I did just double check to make sure that he had availability also. Does that work for you, Katie?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cody? Awesome. All right, then let's change the date for the regularly scheduled April 13th board meeting to Wednesday, April 15th, 7 PM. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody, second?
So,
Second by Katie, all in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, we'll require a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2 parentheses 4, preparing for contract negotiations or negotiating with employees or employer representatives. Do I have a motion? Motion by Cody, second.
Second.
Second by Katie, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. In executive session, 8:04 PM.